Welcome to the next video in our segment for new gun owners. I'm Paul Lathrop of the Polite Society Podcast. Joining me, Amanda Suffolcool of Eye on the Target Radio and Rob Morse of Self-Defense Gun Stories. This particular topic we're going to be doing is we're going to go deep dive, and we're going to go into the first rule: treat every firearm as if it's loaded. Rob, you're up.
Right. That is, wow. There's a lot that hides in that rule. Treat it as if it's loaded. What does that mean? That means until you verified it, it's loaded. I don't put my hand in front of it even when I verified it. Why? Because I don't want to get in the habit of putting my hand where I can hurt myself. I don't point guns at other people because I just verified it. And I'm going to treat it like it's always loaded. So it's both a rule and it's a habit I'm trying to develop. Amanda, how do you implement that with your students?
Well, let me first say that I pick up a blue gun and look at what my hand looks like. Whoops. This is how, even with a blue gun or even with a pretend gun or even with a play gun, I treat it as if it was loaded. So I know where it's aimed and I know where my finger is. So what I try to tell my students is that it's your responsibility to make sure that you know the condition of that gun and that condition is applicable to what you're doing with it. So if you're using it for self-defense, then it should be loaded. But if you're trying to dry fire or you're handling it in the kitchen or you're doing whatever, you need to know what the condition is. I had a student, and he was talking about the fact that he would sit in his office and he would dry fire his pistol against the wall in his office. And so he was on a conference call, so he's got his pistol and he's dry firing it, and he's dry firing it, and he's dry firing it. And then the conference call ended, so he took his gun, loaded it back up, put it in his holster, and then he got on another conference call. And he picked up his gun and he dry fired it, and it wasn't dry. And he shot a hole through every piece of clothing that his wife owned that was hanging in the closet.
Oh.
Every piece. So we're like, ooh, exactly. So what did you tell her? What did you do? He said, I told her we had moths, and I gave her the credit card. So in his case, it makes for a funny story, but it could have been a horrific story. It could have been such a sad story. And the thing is that you have a responsibility that even the most accomplished gun handlers have to, every time they pick that gun up, check whether it's loaded or not, so that they know in that moment the condition that gun is.
Paul, do you have time for me to add to what Amanda said?
You got 6.5 minutes.
Amanda, that is so right. These are rules that everybody uses. The person who picks up a gun and is in his first class. These are the rules you follow. A guy who makes a living with a gun, maybe law enforcement, bail bondsman, military, maybe a professional shooter who has incredible performance skills. He lives by these rules. Look, they work, they overlap, so that means you have to break several of them if someone's going to get hurt, but they try and live by all of them all the time. Do you agree?
I do indeed, because if you follow the 4 firearms rules, you cannot inadvertently hurt someone. If you break one of them, but you follow the others, you're not going to hurt someone else. It's when you break multiples of them, you have disregard for them, you're cavalier about it. When you're a brand new gun owner, you're kind of afraid. You're afraid of this thing. You know, you brought it home and it's plotting to shoot you right in the butt. So, and live with that fear, maintain that fear, and keep it healthy. I mean, don't be terrified of it, but have a healthy fear-based respect for it, because something can happen if you are cavalier about it.
Absolutely. And now, one I want to go off to a little bit of a tangent on, but it's absolutely appropriate here.
I think you ought to not zoom me, because right now it looks like you're talking and I'm there.
Okay, there we go. Let's treat every firearm as if it's loaded. That includes if you're at a range and you're walking up and the gun is on the tray in front of you, you're going to walk up and you're going to pick that gun up and point it down range and fire. You still need to treat it as it's loaded until you have verified through both sight and feel for a semi-automatic that chamber is empty. Otherwise, if you pick it up and another safety rule goes by and your finger touches the trigger, it could go off. We'll go into another time, and that brings to mind another future topic is, how do you pick up a gun before you know if it's loaded or not?
Bingo. And how do you put down a gun? Because if you are a good neighbor, a friendly guy at the range, you make sure that gun, when you put it down at the range, is laid down in a manner to where you can tell that it's empty, they can tell that it's empty, and they can pick it up without sweeping anybody else to address it.
Absolutely. Both of those are a lot longer topics than about a minute and a half that we want to be out of here with. So is there anything else we want to talk about with Rule 1, or do we just shut this down and go to Rule 2 for the next video?
I think Rule 2 is waiting for us.
That's right. If you're a new gun owner and you're not sure what to do, ask for help. If you're an experienced gun owner and you see somebody having trouble, there are a lot of new gun owners in the world right now. Ask them if they'd like help.
Amen.
Right.
We're going to set it aside there. We'll be back in a little bit with another video. This one, next in the series, is going to be Rule 2 of Colonel Cooper's Rules.